Please be seated. As far as Tuesday is concerned, I'll tell you right out of the box, we're going to go most of Tuesday. I'd like to hear around 10 o'clock. Okay? And then, as I told you, Wednesday and Thursday are going to be it looks like 8:30 both days in the morning, so we can try and get that. State.
Thank you. At this time, the state calls Ibn Ali.
Please raise your right hand, sir. You swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, you can put your hand down. Please take a seat. State your name and spell your last name for the record.
Ibn Saeed Ali.
Go ahead, state.
Spell your last name for the record.
A-L-I.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry.
Good afternoon, Mr. Ali.
Good afternoon.
Where are you employed?
Sunbeam.
Do you know an individual by the name of Corey McNabb?
I do.
How do you know him?
I knew Corey since we were playing Little League football.
Friends with him?
13, 14. Not so much at today.
Okay.
Yeah.
Back in April 24, 2014, were you friends with him?
Without a doubt, yeah.
Do you know a person by the name of Marlon Williams?
I know of him
And how do you know of him?
through Corey.
Are you personal friends with Marlon Williams?
I am not.
What about Demetrius Elder? Do you know who that is?
I do.
Were you friends with him?
No.
Do you know a person by the name of Armando Baptista?
I know of that name, but that's not the name I know him of.
What did you know him by?
Marge.
Now, taking you back to April 24, 2014, on that evening, did you go to a gathering at Corey McNabb's house?
I did.
Do you remember approximately what time you went?
I don't.
Was it in the evening time?
It was.
When you got there, was Corey McNabb there?
He was.
Was the person who you know as Marge there?
Was he there at the time? I think he was. I couldn't say for certain. I believe he was, yeah.
Okay.
But I'm not certain.
You're not certain if he was there when you
Matter of fact,
arrived?
he wasn't. He
Okay.
wasn't.
All right.
Yeah.
When you arrived,
Yeah, when I got there, he wasn't there.
was Demetrius there yet?
No, they was together.
Okay. At some point in the evening, did they also come to Corey's house?
Yes.
After you arrived to Corey's house, did you ever text a person by the name of Fabrahim Knight to come over?
Muhammad?
Muhammad.
Yes.
Okay. And you know this person as Muhammad, is that correct?
Yes.
Were you friends with Muhammad?
Yes.
Now, just want to get some timing of your communication. Was it approximately 8:21 p.m. when you text Muhammad to let you know that you were by Corey's house?
That's very well possible.
Would there be anything to refresh your recollection, like if I showed you the text messages?
Yeah.
May I report your honor?
Yes.
All right, so I'm going to show you this, and then you can just take a look at it, and then look up. He's going to be asking you about that one, and this one. Okay. And is your memory refreshed after looking at those text messages?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And so at about 8:24 p.m., did you text Muhammad to let him know that you were at Corey's house?
You said 8:21, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. And did he text you back that he was coming?
Yes.
And that was about 8:24 p.m.?
According to that paperwork, yeah.
Okay. And did you text him back essentially, okay?
Yes.
All right. By the time Muhammad got to Corey's house, was Demetrius Elder and Marge there?
Yes.
At some point in the evening, did you ever observe Muhammad walk over to Marge, as known as Armando Baptista, and have a conversation?
He walked in that vicinity, not like up to him within like arm's length.
Just in the vicinity?
Mm-hmm.
Approximately how close do you think they got? Stop me when you believe that.
About right there.
Right here?
Mhm.
Okay. Did they appear to be talking to you?
Talking to me?
No, did they appear to be talking to each other?
They were communicating amongst the group. It was a bunch of people in that little area.
Okay. And after that communication, did you see Muhammad leave that area?
Yeah.
At some point in the evening, did you see Demetrius Elder and Armando Baptista leave Corey's house?
Yeah.
And did Muhammad also leave Corey's house?
Yes.
Did Corey McNabb also leave the home shortly after?
No.
I can just have one more, Your Honor. I have no further questions.
Defense?
Thank you, Your Honor. Hey, Mr. Ali, how are you?
I'm good. How you doing?
I'm doing okay.
Good.
Couple of quick follow-up questions. I just want to make sure that I'm clear. First off, are we saying Marge or March?
Marge. To my knowledge, it was
Like we're marching?
Marge, like Marge from Homer Simpson.
Oh, okay, okay. So the person that you know as Armando Baptista, you believe their name to be Marge?
Correct.
Okay. And you're not friends with this person at all?
Associates.
Okay, you never hung out with him before?
No.
You don't have his phone number?
No.
Nothing like that?
No.
Okay. And you're not friends with the person you know as Demetrius Corey, you've been friends for quite some time, right?
Correct.
How old were you when you and Corey became friends?
About 13, 14,
Oh, so quite some time. I don't mean to be rude, but how old are you today?
41.
Okay. And you're not friends currently?
No. No, we're not.
Okay. And you were also friends with Muhammad, correct?
Yes.
How long had you known Muhammad for?
I knew Muhammad since I was in high school, so about 16, around
Okay.
16.
And I just want to make sure that the jury understands the person that we're talking about, Fakhruddin Knight, is Muhammad.
Correct.
Okay. You actually had plans to meet up with Muhammad that night to play pool.
Yes.
That's correct?
Yes.
And so when you text him earlier in the night, you're kind of reconfirming we're going to play pool later plans,
Exactly.
correct?
Mm-hmm.
Now, do you know Walter Stanley?
I do.
Okay, how do you know Walter Stanley?
That's supposedly Corey's cousin.
Supposedly Corey's cousin.
Yeah.
Okay, and is he there that night at the party?
Yeah.
All right. I want to go now to the party a little bit. The gathering, I guess we're talking about, is on April 25th, 2014, right?
Yes.
Is this like a regular thing? Is this a special event? Why are people there?
Regular thing.
So every Friday night, everybody hangs out at Corey's.
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
For the most part, yeah.
And is it like an invite thing? Like if I wanted to go hang out at Corey's, is he sending me a text, hey, come over, hang out, or you just kind of show up?
Yeah, because like we cool with his dad too. His dad is a senior citizen, but he's real cool, so I gotta turn my phone on mute.
That's all right. Take your time.
Yeah. Corey's just like, we don't even necessarily go see Corey. We go to see Mac, his dad.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you kind of just show up there.
Yeah.
All right. And during this gathering, you witnessed Corey calling Muhammad and telling him to come over.
Well,
Objection, Your Honor,
yeah.
hearsay.
Sustained, go ahead.
You see Corey call Muhammad, correct?
Yeah.
And then shortly thereafter, Muhammad shows up, correct?
Yeah.
And you believe that to be because Corey called him?
Objection, Your Honor, speculation.
Sustained?
So Muhammad shows up to the party. Describe what kind of mood you believed the kind of mood he appeared to be in.
Objection, speculation.
In this case, I'm going to overrule it. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
He seemed to be in a good mood.
A good mood?
Correct.
And you had known him for quite some time, so you knew if he was in a good mood or a bad mood, correct?
Yeah.
All right. At some point, do you see Corey point out Armando to Muhammad?
Objection, hearsay.
I'm asking about a physical action, Your Honor.
That is testimonial.
I'm going to sustain the objection. Go ahead.
said on direct that you saw Muhammad walk over to Armando, correct?
In that vicinity.
In that vicinity.
Correct.
Describe to me what you're looking at as you see Muhammad walk over to Armando. What is his physical kind of demeanor?
It was more peripheral because I was speaking to a young lady at the time, so I wasn't really paying attention to what was going on. I kind of had an idea in my mind of what was going on, but I really wasn't. It wasn't my concern too much, so I wasn't really paying attention. But I seen him over there, and if I was focusing on it, then I probably would have known what they was talking about. But I honestly wasn't. I was just really wasn't paying attention to it.
What do you mean by saying that you had something in your mind?
I'm going to object, Your Honor. I'm going to object to hearsay and speculation.
I don't know what it is.
Judge, maybe go sidebar?
I think what I'm going to do is send the jury out. Okay, I'm going to ask for a proffer here.
Okay. Go ahead and answer the question.
Repeat the question.
You said that you kind of had something going on in your mind. What did you have going on in your mind?
No, I think you heard me wrong. I said I was speaking to another young lady, and I wasn't really paying attention to what they had going on. Now, had I not been paying attention to her, and I would assume that he was going up there to him to talk to him about why he punched Walter.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's what you thought was happening.
Yeah. If I was, assuming, I would think that's what it was, but I honestly didn't really care.
Okay.
All right.
Sorry.
That it?
Well, I was going to do one more that if I could.
Go ahead.
Okay. And earlier I asked you a question. Did you see Corey point out Armando to Muhammad? If you answered that question, what would your answer have been?
There was no pointing involved.
Okay. Did he make him aware?
Yes.
Okay. I have nothing further on it.
Okay. As far as the proffer is concerned, I'm not going to allow any of it in front of the jury. Okay. To bring it back.
And Judge, just for future questioning, if the defense is going to attempt to bring out any testimony as to this witness.
Go ahead, you can bring them out. Okay, please be seated. You may continue.
Thank you, Your Honor. All right, so I just want to backtrack really quickly. You observe Muhammad walk over towards a group of people where Mr. Baptista is, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And you see he eventually walks away,
Yes.
correct? Does Muhammad's temperament change at all?
Slightly.
Explain that to me.
He didn't have that same perky vibe, like the smile. He wasn't smiling no more. You could tell he was frustrated about something.
He was frustrated about something.
Yeah, but he never gave me no details at all.
Okay. Shortly after that, Demetrius and Armando leave, correct?
Yeah.
Do you remember how long that was?
What do you mean?
How long after that did they leave?
Like within 3-4 minutes after that.
So very quickly after Muhammad walks up to this group of people that Armando Baptista and Demetrius are a part of, he gets frustrated, and then 3 to 4 minutes later, Armando and Demetrius leave.
From what I
I'm going to
remember.
object to the compound question and the speculative nature of it.
I'm going to sustain it as far as it being a compound question. Go ahead.
Okay, so Muhammad walks up to this group of people, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Gets frustrated, correct?
Objection and speculation.
Well, I'm going to sustain it the way you asked that question.
Okay. You see him, use the words that you described again? What did he seem?
He seemed a little frustrated, like you said.
Okay, so
About something, I just didn't know about what.
Okay,
Yeah, in particular.
he walks away from that group, is that correct?
Mhm.
And then 3 to 4 minutes later, Armando and Demetrius leave, correct?
If I remember that correctly, yes.
Okay. Muhammad is still there at this point, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And about how long after Demetrius and Armando leave does Muhammad leave the
That
party?
I couldn't tell. I didn't see him leave.
You didn't see him leave?
He was with some girl, and like I said, I was talking to another young lady, and I was distracted by that kind of.
Do you remember coming into the courthouse and giving a deposition on March 20th, 2018?
I don't remember that date specifically, but I do remember coming in.
Okay. And when you were asked how long after they left did Muhammad leave, your response was right after.
Judge, I'm going to object to improper impeachment. I don't know where she's impeaching
Okay,
from.
I'm out. I'm going to sustain the objection.
Page 25, line 15.
That's how you impeach.
If I showed you a copy of your deposition, would you remember how you answered that question?
I did.
If I could direct you to page 25, line 15.
15. Hello. Okay, and that was what I verbally said on recording?
Yeah.
Okay. How long ago was that?
March 20th, 2018.
2018?
Yeah.
This year?
Yes.
Okay.
So am I correct that you responded right after?
Hey, the proof is in the pudding, right?
If I may have a moment, Your Honor. No further questions.
Redirect.
None, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ali. You're excused.
Thank you. Forever, right? All right, Judge. I'm done for today, right?
Oh, yeah, you're done for today. State, call your next witness, please.
The next witness is the witness that we have to discuss first.
Oh, okay. Ladies and gentlemen, you're going to have to go back there again. Sorry about that. Okay, what are we discussing?
The autopsy photos, Your Honor. So we need Dr. Boiko for that. Dr. Boiko, yes.
What do we need to discuss?
Your Honor recalls we had just addressed this in the motions in limine. Defense was objecting to the 60-plus photos.
That's what I needed to know. Raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
You can put your hand down, take a seat, state your name, spell your last name for the record.
I'm Dr. Yuri Boiko, last name B-O-I-K-O.
Good afternoon, Dr. Boiko. How are you today?
Fine, thank you.
And you remember when I met with you at your office a couple of weeks ago?
Yes,
Okay, Dr. Boiko, at that point, did you have an opportunity to go through all of the autopsy photos under ME case number 14-1118?
yep,
And did you indicate to me at that time which ones would assist you in your testimony?
yes.
So now I'm going to go through one by one those photos, because we're going to discuss the defense objections to it. For the record, this is photo 7397.
If you want to go up to the,
I can,
Yeah, let me get a little closer. I've seen it.
counsel has indicated he is objecting to this photo. Dr. Boiko, how would this photo help in assisting you in testifying?
Well, it shows how I received the body in plastic bag with numbers which was attached in our office to this case.
Going on to photo 74, do objections one by one, Mr. Kimas, or do you want to?
Some of my objections are because they're cumulative, so we probably want to go through all of them.
Photo number 7469. Dr. Boiko, how does this photo assist you in your testimony?
Well, it shows the body of decedent with stab wounds and this surgical procedure.
And does this help in showing which injuries or wounds to the body are as a result of medical intervention?
Yes.
Photo number 7539.
It's stab wound on the right side of the chest.
7541.
It's blunt force injuries to the face.
7544.
It's stab wound A in surgical incision.
7548.
It's stab wound C, I believe. No, it's stab wound D on the left arm.
7550.
It's incised wound on the left hand and left forearm.
7552.
Stab wounds A, B, C,
7565.
D again, it's marked.
7569.
It's E on the left forearm.
7571.
F on the left hand, incised wound.
7576.
It's face of deceased with blunt force injuries on face.
7595.
It's G on the back, stab wound on the back.
7598.
It's just a modification. It's G.
7605.
It's internal injury, shows the hemorrhage.
7606.
It's injury to the heart.
And in total, how many photos were taken, if you know?
I didn't count it.
Can you count?
I have questions.
16.
There's 16 here, yes, but this is fewer than were taken in the entire autopsy, correct?
Yes, certainly.
Let's look at 7397. So, doctor, this is obviously the body bag that the body came in.
Yes,
You take it out of the body bag before performing an autopsy, correct?
certainly.
And there are a number of, there are times when you go to the scene and the body is not in the body bag, correct?
Well, if that body is still on the crime scene, I'm going to the scene. If body was removed from the scene to the hospital, we don't go into the hospital because it's already not crime scene. So in this particular case, I received body from the hospital.
So the fact that the body came in a body bag isn't relevant to your determination of cause of death. Is that correct? We'll go to the second one. This is number 2. It's the second photo on the disc.
7469 is the record.
A number of these injuries to the decedent, or a number of these cut wounds to the decedent are from medical intervention. Is that correct?
Yes,
There's tubes coming out of them. There's I guess a syringe of some sort coming out of them, correct?
correct.
Those were not, those particular parts were not, didn't precipitate the decedent's death. They were used to try to save his life, correct?
Correct, it's medical procedure. I just show the whole body of decedent.
Thank you.
How I see it.
I'll go to the third one. I have no objections to 3, Judge.
That's 7539.
I have-
7541,
I have no objections to 4, to this one.
7544,
Again, so in this one, we have, the main thing that we see is that that's surgical intervention, correct?
Correct.
But there is a small slice underneath the, I guess, small stab wound underneath the left nipple,
Well, yes, it's stagnant.
and that's the one that you classified as A.
It will be later also.
Am I correct that you took that in the in all of the photographs you took, that you took a photograph of, a zoomed up photograph just of that wound, correct?
Yes,
And one that actually labels it as A, correct?
yes.
Okay, so if we wanted to see what that wound looked like, that photograph would be a better one than this zoomed out photograph, correct? Thank you. Did I have no objection to this photograph?
7548,
We have another with D, if you want to remove this one, because we have with marker D, same on the left arm. And same with this one, we will have with markers.
So I don't have an objection to this, but this picture shows both a stab wound to the wrist as well as a injury to the finger, correct?
Yes.
Okay, I know
Is that
that.
7548 or is that?
7550,
I have no objection to that picture.
Number.
7552,
So 7552 is, again, a picture of the left side. This one just has the A, B, and C wounds to it, correct?
Yes, it's important. I need this one.
And this one is essentially the same picture that we saw in 7569 number 2, only without the A, B, and C markers, correct?
Well, I don't believe there was C, but this picture is more preferable for me because
Okay.
it's ABC.
More preferable than 7469, one without markers.
Correct.
7565,
What was that last one? That it was just.
7552,
Thank you. This is 75.
65.
It's
And so this one is this is 7565?
Yes.
And 7565 shows the same wound D that was shown in 7548, correct?
correct, but I prefer this one because it's marker. D.
Okay. 7548 did not have the marker, correct? Okay.
7569,
Again, this is a picture of the wounds to the wrist, which is the same wound that we see in 7550, correct?
Yes, I prefer this one.
Okay.
7571,
Again, this is a picture of the wound to the finger, which is the same wound that we see in 7550, correct?
Yes, I prefer this one. It's marker.
7576,
This is above, I guess, when we're looking at this picture and the picture 7534, that was a side picture, shows the same wounds, correct?
Yeah, this one is better. We can leave just this one.
And this one, there's a case number down there at the bottom.
Yes,
Who put that case number there?
our photographer. This
Okay.
case was attacked that this dissident.
Obviously, that placard doesn't assist you in any way in determining cause of death, correct?
No, but it showed blunt force injuries on the face.
No, but I mean the number itself.
Number is just identifier that it's deceased.
Okay. It doesn't assist you in
No.
determining cause of death, correct? We can go to the next one.
7595,
That's this one and number 14, the next one,
Next one is better.
are the same
This
photograph,
one,
correct?
Yes.
Okay.
This
No,
one's
they
better.
are not the same photograph. So
No, but it's the same injury.
Same injury, yes.
Yes.
Stab wound, Jim.
And this one,
7595.
thank you, 7595 obviously shows the top of the decedent's buttocks, is that correct?
Well, it's on the back, yes. Stab wound, yes.
That part, the showing of the decedent's buttocks doesn't assist you in any way in your testimony here today,
I
correct?
don't see this one. No.
If we go to the next one, that's the same wound, correct? As that we saw before, and this picture assists you more in being able to describe the wound, is that correct?
Yes.
What number is that one?
7598.
And I do not have an objection to this one, Judge. I'm ready for the next one.
7605.
This is, what are we looking at here?
It's injury to the heart.
That you have opened up the chest cavity at this point?
Yes.
And
I just show that stab wound A penetrates the heart.
and you don't need this picture to tell the jury that stab wound A penetrated the heart, is that correct?
Yeah.
You can go to the next one.
7606.
It's same identification, injury to the heart.
And again, you don't need this injury to tell the jury that there was a stab wound to the heart, correct?
I can explain it in the words, as a picture.
I have no further questions, Judge.
Okay,
So Ms. Johnson's going to be doing Dr. Boiko's directs. I don't know if she wants to make the arguments as to each individual picture that we, and we can go through them individually. As to 7397, defense is objecting.
So Judge, as to 7397, it's a picture of a body bag.
yeah, I agree.
There's going to be testimony that the way the body came in is not how the body looks when it's on the table. The body came in a body bag. It's a procedure that they go through. Part of the defense's argument in the case is going to be certain strategies that crime scene did on collection of evidence.
Can we excuse Dr. Boiko
Yeah,
before
doctor, can you step out, please?
Step out of the room or just here?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't mean disrespect by sitting down.
Sorry.
So like I was saying, there's going to be testimony of how this particular body was received. That testimony is to lay a foundation of the procedures that the ME goes through once they receive a case for a medical autopsy. The jury is going to see how the body was after, it comes out the body bag. There's going to be testimonial evidence to this effect. And so I don't see how a picture of what they're going to be testifying to is not relevant.
So we're not disputing the body came in a body bag, but showing a body bag and that the picture itself has no relevance. It is prejudicial. Seeing a body bag, evokes, I think, certainly evokes emotions. They're going to be emotional anyways, seeing these injuries, and this just doesn't, there's no relevance to this. There's no reason that the jury needs to see this.
Of course, I didn't see the picture. Was it just a body bag?
It's not even the full body bag. It's a corner of the body bag.
You can't see it?
I couldn't see any of it.
It displays
You need
how...
to be able to see him, Judge.
I mean,
Judge, how are you making a ruling if you're seeing photos?
because I thought we were going to have agreements, that's why. Go ahead.
So the medical examiner is going to testify how the body comes in, how the body is identified, and the fact that whenever a body comes in for an autopsy, that they assign a B&E number.
Okay, now that I see it, I thought it was an entirely different photo, but go ahead. I'm going to let that one in.
Judge, that would be over, Judge.
Yeah, of course, everything.
Judge, this is a photograph that is very similar to one that comes on later that shows the chest that is a little more close
Which
up.
number was this one?
7469.
That was the one that the doctor said the other one was better than this one, right?
Correct, Judge.
So,
Does the other one have the hands on the paper bag?
It does not.
Okay, so that's the difference here, Judge, because there has been testimony, and there is going to be testimony that when the body came in, that the body's hands were protected by those bags that are on it. And so this is exactly how the body was received. It was received with bags on the hands, and the medical procedures, to save his life, were still intact. And it just goes in a sequence of procedures of, once the body is received in the bag, they open the bag, and he's
Okay,
exactly
fine.
how he is
Okay.
everything to the hospital.
all right, I'm going to let that one in over defense objection as well.
That'll lead to relevance and more prejudicial and probative, especially with regards to the tube still coming out of them, the needle still coming out of them. There's no reason that the jury needs to see that. We are not disputing. In fact, we elicited the testimony that they came in bags. And so showing them a picture of the bags to get it in, I think, is it's just not relevant.
All right, let's go back on that a second then. Why do they need to see the bags if the defense is already basically one that elicited that testimony?
Well, what we display in our case in chief is not dependent on what the defense elicits
Okay.
in testimony.
Well, we're going to put this on abeyance for now. We're going to come back to this one. Go ahead.
I have no objection to number 3, Judge, to this photograph.
7541.
I have no objection to
Yeah.
this photograph, but this photograph and I have it as number 12, but the one that comes later are similar, so I'm going to object to that one as cumulative, but if the court, I don't have an objection to this one.
All right.
7544.
That one he didn't have an objection to either from my notes.
No objection to this one.
7548.
That one he had no objection to either according to my notes.
Maybe not.
7550.
That one he had no objection to according to my notes.
Maybe not.
7552.
That one he had no objection
No,
to.
I do have an objection to this one. It's cumulative to the photograph we saw, the first photograph we saw that showed the entire torso that we were just arguing about, and the photograph 2 photographs ago that showed that part with the surgical intervention. I don't think it's necessary for the jury to see.
Well, I'm sure I'm going to let that medical one in yet, but this one I see is highly different than what we saw already, so I am going to let that one in.
7565.
Is somebody writing down?
So far, everything is in.
Okay. Because I object to this one as being cumulative to the one that I didn't have an objection to, showing the wounds to the armpit. This one also, again, unlike the first one, shows the medical intervention, which is particularly prejudicial. The first one did not show the medical intervention, and so that's why I didn't object to that one, but I do object to this one.
And so if I
What's the
can
basis of
understand,
your objection? I still
Yeah,
don't.
more prejudicial than probative, cumulative, and not relevant since we already have the other one.
But does the other one have the gash under the arm like that?
The gash under the arm is the surgical intervention, Judge,
Okay.
and so that's not.
Okay, all right.
Right, but I'm
sorry,
sorry.
that's not the surgical intervention.
No. This, yes, the other one has this injury. This is what we agreed to in the other one. The other one does not have this.
am I correct in saying the only difference between the other picture is the placard D?
Placard D and the surgical the surgical intervention.
I would have to see the other picture.
That, yeah, so.
Okay, so then I can agree to not put the one with the D placard.
Okay.
Even though that's the one that the medical examiner preferred, because that was his testimony.
Over the one that is marked D.
He prefers the one with the marker on it as opposed to that one.
That's what I'm saying. I'm saying keep the one with the marker
And get rid of
and get rid of the one without the marker.
So we would object to that because the one with the marker also shows this stuff, which is prejudicial, which we're trying to limit as much as humanly possible. The one without the marker does not show. I mean, we're not disputing that it's D. You can explain this
And the one on the right, what is that a medical intervention thing in the mark on the left, in the left corner?
Yes, this is medical intervention.
No, not there.
This is where they try to save his life. They open him up to massage the heart to try to save his life. This is an injury that he sustained.
Okay, so that injury is shown on the picture on the left. And, okay, I'm,
But Judge, this injury is the one that Dr. Boiko said that would be helpful in assisting with his testimony. It's the only picture of the two that's labeled with the D, that's labeled in his ME report, and it's also labeled with the placard, the white placard right next to it. And so without it, then he's going to be testifying to not the particular placard or the white card next to it.
so what? I mean, you're showing something in that lower left-hand corner that it's not part of.
Judge, let's also look at this one here, which is the one they were not objecting to without the
Right.
placard, 7548.
Right.
Zoom in, Judge, and you can see the surgical interventions over here as well.
Right.
But in this, you can't tell it's surgical intervention. It looks like it could be another stab wound. So it makes sense to have the more overview, so it can be obvious that that is not another stab wound we're attributing to the defendant.
I mean, he can testify to that. I can literally ask him that question, and he can testify to that. But when to try to say we should get into huge gash wounds that is very prejudicial in order to save the prejudice from the little teeny one that we can clearly clear up, I think is kind of backwards arguments.
All right, well, I'm going to let the one that was on the left, not the one on the right with the placard. The one on the right's out.
The one on the placard is out, so you're
Yeah,
saying.
the one on the right with the placard on it is out.
7565.
So Judge, I object to this one is cumulative to 7550. This is, what's the number on this one?
7569, so you said 7550? Side by side.
So now we've got 7550 shows both an injury to the wrist and an injury to the finger. The 7569 shows, again, an injury to the wrist. It's the same injury. I'd object this to cumulative.
I'm going to let both of those in. Go ahead.
7571.
Same objection as the last one, Judge. 7571 also shows an injury to the finger that is also depicted in 7550, which I did not have an objection to, and so I'd object this to cumulative.
Tell me why should this come in?
What's the other picture? Christine?
7550.
This is E, which Your Honor just allowed in, which is a close-up of the one from 7550. One of them, this is F, which is 7571, which is a close-up of the other wound. 7550 shows the distance in the scale between the two wounds as an overview. These are the close-ups of each one, so the doctor can testify as to the length, the depth of the wound, and things of that nature.
All right, I'm going to let both of them in.
7576.
Judge, I object to this picture as prejudicial and cumulative to 7534. It's also
7534.
no the one you just pulled up. I'm sorry. This is 7541. So I object to the one on the right as cumulative to the one on the left. They show the same injuries. I also think that having this down here at the bottom particularly dehumanizes and the decedent, which is prejudicial to Mr. Baptista, and so I would object.
I'm going to let both of them in.
Judge, I object to 7595. First of all, this picture shows most of the decedent's buttocks. Obviously, we want to avoid.
There was another picture that showed that the doctor said without that.
Correct.
I'm going to let you finish arguing, I'm sorry.
That's okay. And so, also this, so we object because of the buttocks. I think that's particularly prejudicial. The next photograph shows a much closer version of the wound, which I do not have an objection to, and allows the doctor and all of us to talk much more about what that wound and be able to look at that wound. This doesn't do that, and so we object.
And my response is that, one, we can cover up the buttocks portion, but the rest of it, even though counsel says that he can focus on the wound itself, we not only want to focus on the wound, but where the wound was placed. This is the only picture of scale of the back of the body. And so when the doctor is explaining where the placement of that particular wound, this picture is necessary in order to describe that to the jury. If we didn't have this picture, they would be looking at the next picture with just a wound with brown skin around, not knowing where that is.
But is this the wound from the
Mr. Elder, yes.
Mr. Elder?
That's irrelevant,
Why is it irrelevant?
because when co-defendants are charged together, you're charged for the crime together, and so the ME is not going to testify just to the acts of one person.
I got you. So, all right, I'm going to let, you're not objecting to that one is what you're saying.
I'm not objecting to that, what's this photograph?
7598.
I'm not objecting to 7598, I am objecting to the previous one.
I will let the previous one come in, but you're going to make the,
We will zoom in so that the buttocks does not feature of it.
Well, can we just crop it?
yeah, that's,
I mean,
We still need to have something to show the scale of that. So I think the top half of the buttocks is not
no, that's fine. No, see,
training.
That-
Minimal.
that's fine right there. All right, what do we got next?
So that is fine. Let's see if
Yeah.
it changes when I go full screen, just in case. Yes, it does. So that I can, is
Yeah.
it,
we object, but
Yeah, I know.
obviously,
Okay.
7598 with no objection, so 7605.
Judge, the next two are entirely irrelevant and prejudicial. I am, like, when I saw them at first, I had an emotional reaction, and I do this for a living. There's nothing that either of these two can show the jury that the doctor can't testify to. We don't dispute that he was stabbed in the heart. We don't dispute any of what happens inside. They don't need to show inside. And this is way, 15, 16, whatever the numbers are, way more prejudicial.
Judge, I don't mind eliminating one of them, but whether or not a picture is gory, to the extent that it disgusts someone, isn't the standard of whether or not it should come in. There are going to be some gory pictures. If there's a picture that can be assisting the medical examiner when he's testifying as to these injuries, this was a fatal injury.
And he said he could testify as to it without the picture.
What he was asked of is, he said, can you give the testimony without having the picture there? Of course. You can take pictures away from all the injuries, and you can testify as to what the pictures are. There aren't pictures attached to any report.
What's the next one?
And I agree, there's only one that would be needed.
Judge, this is a self-defense case. It is not a medical case. There is absolutely no reason the jury should see these. The only reason the state would want the jury to see these is to shock them. They are shocking. This is the exact reason we have this type of hearing. That these last two photos absolutely should not come in.
They're both out. Go ahead.
So from, that was 7565 is out, and then 7605 and 7606, is that correct?
Correct. Anybody need to use the facility?
I do.
Jury back?
Could I have 1 minute break?
What's that?
A 1 minute bathroom break?
Okay.
This is 26.
I reviewed the objections to the pictures I already objected to, but it's
Right, okay.
for the reasons I already did.
Okay, go ahead.
And then, one more question. Judge, the defense is requesting, prior to the pictures being published to the jury, if the court would essentially instruct the jury, you're about to see some pictures of the decedent, you should not allow your emotions to have an impact on your evaluation of the case.
If you problem with that. Okay. All right, bring it back. Okay, state, call you, please be seated. State, call your next witness.
The state calls Dr. Boiko.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, please state your name, spell your last name for the record, sit down and give yourself coverage.
I'm Dr. Yuri Boiko, last name Boiko.
Go ahead, your name, fire, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Dr. Boiko.
Good afternoon.
What is your occupation?
I'm Associate Medical Examiner in Broward County Medical Examiner Office.
How long have you been employed as an associate medical examiner at the Broward County Medical Examiner's Office?
10 years.
Can you take the jurors through your training and educational background?
I finished my medical school in Ukraine in 1983. I received my PhD in Ukraine in 1990. In 1994, I came to USA as a researcher in MD Anderson Cancer Center in Houston. After that, I took my boards and was accepted to the general pathology residency in Houston Medical School. It's from 2000 to 2004. After that, I had 1 year of fellowship in forensic pathology in Houston. After that, I was working as associate medical examiner in Charleston, West Virginia, 2 years, and from 2008, I'm working here.
What are the duties of an associate medical examiner?
Associate medical examiner has to perform external and internal examination of the body to determine cause and manner of death.
Approximately how many autopsies would you say that you perform per year?
Around 300.
Have you ever testified in the area of forensic pathology in court in Broward County before?
Yes,
Approximately how many times?
around 200.
At this time, Your Honor, I would tender the expert to the defense and to the court.
Judge, ready for sidebar? Ready for sidebar?
All right, you may continue.
Did you have the occasion to conduct an autopsy on an individual by the name of Dr. Knight?
Yes,
When did you conduct this autopsy?
April 26, 2014.
Judge, I would object to the witness apparently reading from a report. If he needs to refresh his recollection, I have no problem with that, but he needs to tell the jury what he's doing.
Doctor, if you don't remember something, just say you don't remember, and then she'll ask you to, if you have anything to refresh your recollection, then you can review your notes, okay?
Yes,
Okay, go ahead.
What date did you perform the autopsy?
I don't remember because it was 3 years ago, 4 years ago.
Did you,
And when I performed my autopsy, I created this report. It's a report which I created during autopsy, and it's not that I'm reading somebody's paper. It's my paper signed by me, and it says that it's April 26, 2014.
understood. When you received Mr. Knight's body for examination, how did it come into the morgue?
Well, body came from the hospital in plastic bag, and it was sealed plastic bag. I opened this plastic bag and performed examination of the body, external, and after that internal, which means autopsy of the body.
When you received Mr. Knight's body, did you or did the Broward Medical Examiner's Office assign a medical examiner number to the case?
Yes, it's regular procedure for each case which come in the office. They give him number to identify the body.
What was the gender of Mr. Knight?
It was male, black male.
And what was Mr. Knight's height at the time of death?
Height?
Yes, sir.
Once again, I would object.
Yes, it's from my report. I'm not required.
Stop. What?
I would object the witness refreshing his recollection without notifying the jury.
Well, I think that, go ahead, state.
I can make the argument sidebar if you want, but
Go ahead, you may continue.
thank you. Dr. Boiko, anytime that you need to refresh your recollection from the report, you can go ahead and do so. We've already established that you are going to be refreshing your recollection when you're answering the questions from your report, okay?
Thank you.
All right. What was the weight of Mr. Knight at the time of death?
228 pounds,
And what was his age?
38 years.
You indicated that part of the job of a medical examiner is to determine the manner and cause of death. What does manner of death mean?
Manner of death means mechanism how person died. It's divided by natural, unnatural, and unnatural deaths, divided by homicide, suicide, accident, and undetermined.
Were you able to make a determination of the manner of Mr. Knight's death?
Yes,
And what was that?
manner of death is homicide.
Were you able to make a determination of the cause of death?
Yes,
And what was that?
multiple stab wounds.
When you conducted your autopsy, do you make note on each of the stab wounds that Mr. Knight received?
Yes,
And do you notate those stab wounds in your report?
yes,
In addition to writing a report, are there also pictures taken during the autopsy?
yes,
And have you had an opportunity to review those pictures?
yes.
At this time, Your Honor, the state will publish States 26.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, you're about to see some pictures that may disturb you. Please remember you're not to let your emotions sway on how you look at this evidence and what weight or lack of weight you give. Go ahead.
And if you may, yes, step down. And while we're getting the pictures, you identify each of the different multiple sharp force injuries by letter. Is that correct?
Yes.
Now, in the picture here that we're viewing, what are we looking at?
That's how I received the body in plastic bag with seal, and this number which was given to this body, deceased body, 14-1118.
And the number that we see there, is that the number that the Broward County Medical Examiner's Office assigns?
Yes.
Thank you. And the picture here. So once you open the body bag, do you document how the body is received from the body bag?
Yes.
And is that what we're seeing here in this picture?
Yes.
And what are we looking at?
Well, it's body of deceased with stab wounds, multiple, and surgical procedure. He was in hospital, they tried to save his life.
And the items that we see attached to him, do those items come to you in the body bag as well?
Yes.
And the paper bags that we see, were those paper bags placed on the hands by you, or was that how you received the body?
How I received the body from hospital.
Next picture. All right. So in this particular picture, what are we looking at?
It's stab wound on the right side of the chest. This one is from surgical. It was chest tube in the right pleural cavity. But this original stab wound to the right chest.
Okay.
And this stab wound penetrates the right lung.
And would that be stab wound A in your report?
No.
Which stab wound is that?
Doctor, do you need the light turned on?
No, it's okay. Thank you. Stab wound H.
Stab wound H?
Yes.
All right. So let's talk about stab wound H. Were you able to determine what stab wound H perforated?
It's perforated right lung, and it's caused right hemothorax. Hemothorax is accumulation of the blood in pleural cavity, and it's in fibrous around the right lung. It's collection of the blood, and when blood collected in this pleural cavity, it's pressed on the lung and made difficult to breathe. That's why physician put tube, chest tube to release this blood and to let the right lung to expand to breathe normally.
Are you able to determine how much blood was released in the area?
It was 100 milliliters, but this chest tube, so I don't know how much originally. It was much more than.
And are you able to determine the depth of the wound?
It's approximately 8 centimeters.
And are you able to determine how wide the wound was?
Yes, it was 2.5 centimeters.
Thank you. Go to the next one.
Oh,
And what are we looking at here?
it's left side of the body. You can see stab wound A. You can see surgical incision. Physician tried to make direct massage of the heart because heart was stopped. And this stab wound 8 perforate heart and cause bleeding in the pericardium around the heart.
For stab wound A, were you able to determine the depth of stab wound A?
It was approximately 10 centimeters.
And were you able to determine the width of the stab wound?
Yes, 2.5 centimeters.
Next stab wound. And what are we looking at in this particular picture?
It's stab wound of the left arm. It's D.
Would that be D?
Yes.
Okay. And what did stab wound D perforate?
It's perforate muscles of the left arm and cause intramuscular hemorrhage, but not major vessels. So just intramuscular hemorrhages.
What was the depth of wound D?
Approximately 6 centimeters.
And what was the width of the stab wound?
It was 5 centimeters.
And what are we looking at here?
It's left forearm stab incised wound and left hand incised wound.
Are those wounds identified by a letter in your report?
Yes.
Okay, let's
It will be
see.
later. But
I'm sorry?
Photographs with letter will be later, but incised wound of the left arm is E. It's E, and incised wound of the left index finger is F.
Now let's talk about E. What does incised wound mean?
Difference between incised and stab wounds is that incised wound has greater length than depth, and stab wound is opposite. It's depth greater than length of the wound. So incised wound E length was 3 centimeters and depth was approximately 1 centimeter.
And what about F?
F length was 3 centimeters and depth was 0.5 centimeters. It was superficial.
Next one.
Yeah, this one.
And is this F is described as the incised wound?
Yes, because length is greater than depth.
Now, you also documented, in addition to blunt force trauma, that there were other types of injuries. What were those?
Yes, it's blunt force. I described sharp force injuries, which inflicted with knife stab and incise wound. And on the face, you can see blunt force injuries. It's contusions on the right cheek, on the nose, on the lower lip. Contusions, bruises, hemorrhage in the soft tissue.
What's the difference between a blunt force and sharp force?
Well, as I said, sharp force injuries with sharp edges with knife or with another sharp object. Blunt force injuries is injuries which inflicted with blunt object, like fist or some stick or something else.
And did you document specifically the multiple blunt force injuries that Mr. Knight sustained?
Yes,
And if you can take the jury through those.
there was 2 centimeters diameter abrasion and contusion on nose, 3 centimeters in diameter total contusion on the right cheek, 1 centimeter abrasion and contusion on the right side of the lower lip, and 1.5 centimeters contusion on the left side of lips. So it's on the right and on the left side of the lower lip.
And what are we looking at here?
It's stab wound on the back, on the left side of the back. This wound perforate the vessels of the left kidney and cause hemorrhage around left kidney.
And is this a closer picture of that particular stab wound?
Yes,
And you said that the associated injury to that stab wound was what?
it was perforation of the vessels, artery and vein, renal around the kidney and cause bleeding around the kidney.
And what was the wound depth of that stab wound?
Approximately 6 centimeters.
And what about the width?
Five centimeters.
And here we have a picture and it has labels A, B, and C. We've already
It's
discussed
A,
A.
B, and C.
And if you can take us through B.
B, it's stab wound to the left side of the chest. This would perforate the left lung and cause left pneumothorax.
And what was the depth of that stab wound?
Approximately 8 centimeters.
And the width?
It's 1.2 centimeters.
And stab wound C?
And stab wound C, depth was 6 centimeters. Length was 1.8 centimeters. And it perforated abdominal wall and caused bleeding in abdominal cavity.
And what was the depth of stab wound A?
Stab wound A depth was approximately 10 centimeters.
And what about the width?
It was 2.5 centimeters.
Were there any associated injuries with that stab wound?
This A,
Yes, sir.
yes, this wound perforated the heart and caused bleeding from heart. It's one of the most dangerous one.
All right. All right, you can take a seat. Okay, thank you. Out of the multiple sharp force injuries that you described in detail in your report, could you make a determination on whether any of those injuries were fatal?
Yes, injury to the heart is fatal, injury to the lungs is potentially fatal injury to the kidney is potentially lethal also.
And based on your training and experience, are these wounds consistent with a knife?
Yes,
Are you able to determine a range of length of the blade?
no, it's not my purpose, and it's hard to determine exactly because of movement of the body, movement of the knife, make precise determination of length of the knife impossible.
Are you able to determine whether or not the width of the blade was consistent throughout all of the wounds?
Well, it's different. It depends how deep knife insert in the body. If it's just nose of the knife, end of the knife, it will be small wound. If it's more close to the base of the blade, it will be more large wound.
Were any of the wounds consistent with defensive wounds?
Yes, wound.
Calls for speculation.
Sidebar, please. You may continue, the objection's overruled.
Thank you. Dr. Boyd, you already answered that there were some wounds consistent with defensive wounds. Can you explain for the jury what
Yes,
those
just by definition, we determine that all wound inflicted on the arms and legs called defensive type of wound because person tried to protect more vital organs of the body and head with his arms, with his hands. So wounds of the hands and forearms, it's defensive type of wound.
May I just have one moment here?
Yep.
No further questions.
Defense?
Thank you, Judge. Good afternoon, sir. I want to start right where the state left off. Your characterization of some of these wounds as quote, defensive wounds. Am I correct that those wounds, you characterize those wounds as defensive wounds by definition because they occur to the hands or arms, correct?
Yes.
So anytime that a body comes to your office and you see those types of wounds, you characterize them as defensive wounds because that's the standard procedure, correct?
Yes.
You did not go to the scene in this case, correct?
No.
You you did not know the position of the decedent when this occurred, correct?
Correct.
You did not know the position of the individual who inflicted those wounds, correct?
Yes.
So when you indicate that those wounds are characterized as defensive wounds, you are not suggesting to this jury that you personally believe that those wounds were done in self-defense. Is that correct?
No, I personally believe because it's definition of defense wound. How I can believe.
In any event, but that's because in your training, all wounds to the arms or hands are characterized as, quote, defensive wounds, correct?
Correct.
All right. You are not giving an opinion as to where you believe the position of the individuals involved in the altercation were, correct?
Correct.
So let's go back. You indicated you perform about 300 autopsies per year?
Approximately.
Is that one a day, more than one a day?
No, through the year.
Two a day? So how many do you perform per week? Let's say that.
Well, you can divide it by 50 approximately. What? 6.
Okay. Am I correct that you don't remember all of the details of all of those autopsies?
It's correct.
That's why you document everything in your report, correct?
Yes.
So when you are testifying here today, your testimony is not from your personal recollection or memory of the autopsy, it's from reading the details on your report. Is that correct?
Yes, it's refreshing my memory.
Okay.
You indicated at the beginning of the state's direct that you classified this as, that you classified the manner of death as a homicide, correct?
Yes.
Can you please explain to the jury what that means?
In our practice, it's simply that person was killed by another person.
Okay. So, what are the options that you have when you are trying to check off or determine the manner of death?
As I said, it can be natural and unnatural, unnatural divided by homicide, suicide, accident, undetermined.
Okay. So for unnatural, homicide, suicide, accident, undetermined. Is that correct?
Correct.
There is not a box there to check killed by someone else but in self-defense, correct?
No.
So in all cases in which your determination is that the person was killed by someone else, you check the homicide box, correct?
Yes.
So this jury shouldn't think that you're making any conclusion as to guilt in this case, correct?
No, it's not up to me.
The decedent, other than his injuries, as obvious injuries, he appeared to be a healthy man, is that correct?
Yes.
He didn't have any sicknesses or anything like that that you could tell?
No.
And he was well-nourished, correct?
Yes.
He was muscular, correct?
Yes.
When you do your report, am I correct that you document all of the injuries that you see?
Yes.
And so the injuries that you testified to on direct, those were all of the injuries that you observed, correct?
Yes.
You did not, am I correct that you did not observe any bruising to the torso itself?
No.
You did not observe any bruising on his back, correct?
No.
You didn't observe any bruising to his legs or to his arms, correct?
Correct.
Did he have any fractures of any kind?
No.
Did he have any injuries to the body itself that would have been consistent with him being punched or kicked in a forceful manner?
I didn't see.
We'll talk about his face. You observed blunt force injuries to his face, correct?
Yes.
Those injuries, there were no fractures to his face, correct?
No.
No broken teeth, correct?
No.
All right. He didn't have any bite marks on his tongue, correct?
No.
All right. He didn't have any injuries to his neck, correct?
Correct.
You refer to them as abrasions and contusions, I think, on his face, correct?
Yes.
And you documented, I think, a couple of different injuries, both on the lip, the nose, and the cheek itself, correct?
Yes.
Am I correct that you can't give an opinion as to how many separate strikes from whatever the item was that were necessary to cause those injuries?
Well, it's hard to believe that it's from one strike, but I cannot say exactly how many strikes.
And that's the question I was getting at. So I think you said, I just want to make sure the jury isn't confused, because you say injury to this side of the lip and this side of the lip and over here and on the nose. You're not saying that each one of those came from a separate strike. You can't say that one way or another, correct?
I can.
Those injuries, I think you testified, were would they have been consistent with somebody being punched?
Yes.
We saw in the pictures a number of injuries to torso, including some longer kind of, incisions. Am I correct that some of those were medical intervention?
Yes.
So the long one on the side, that was the hospital that actually did that to try to save his life, correct?
Yes, it's surgical incision.
And I think there was another one on his left side in which we saw 2 injuries, but only one of those was a stab wound, correct?
Yes.
The other one was, again, a surgical incision, correct?
Yes.
When on direct you testified as to the width and the depth of many of these wounds, am I correct that the jury, that you're not saying that that's how far, when we talk about depth, let's talk about depth for a second. Am I correct that when you testify as to the depth of a wound, that you are not saying how far an instrument actually went into a person's body, is that correct?
Well, what I said is not precisely the same size, but approximately, yes.
And that is because the body itself actually expands. The wound itself can expand both in depth and in width after being stabbed with a knife, correct?
Yes, because of movement of the body and movement of knife, it can change the size of the wound.
So, for example, there's a wound under the decedent's left armpit that was, I guess, 5 centimeters in width. Is that correct?
Yes.
And that is in a place where a wound might naturally expand after a knife goes into it, correct?
Yes, because it's movement inside wound, movement out, and if arm was moving this time also, so it can be the length of the wound will be higher than the blade by itself.
In all of these wounds, wounds to the body, wounds to the face, were there any wounds whatsoever consistent with being struck by a bottle?
No, I didn't see that.
In fact, when somebody is stabbed with a bottle, it creates a very different looking type of wound than a stab wound. Is that correct?
Yes, it has to be more different shape than from the knife.
You labeled a number of wounds. You labeled the stab wounds A, B, C, D. Am I correct that that is not an opinion as to the order of the wounds?
No, it's just for convenience to describe the wounds. I don't know order.
You cannot tell one way or another, give an opinion one way or another, the order that the decedent received the wounds, correct?
No, I don't know.
So the wound to the heart, that could have been the first stab wound, the middle stab wound, or the last stab wound, correct?
Yes.
As part of the autopsy, are the decedent's hands, or fingernails that scrape, do you take scrapings from underneath the decedent's fingernails?
Yes.
And you swab the fingers themselves?
No, technician does it, but
Okay.
in my presence, under my supervision, yes.
Okay. And that happened in this case, correct?
I assume so. Yeah.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this. When you do an autopsy and you do swabs and fingernail scrapings, you then give that back to the investigating agency. Is that correct?
To police, yes.
To the police, right? And you sign the property receipt that goes to that sends it back to the police department, correct?
Yes.
And is the reason you do that is for potential evidence collection, correct?
Yes.
You can, if there's any foreign DNA underneath the fingernails, perhaps because the decedent may have scratched the person that did this to them, you might be able to find that DNA underneath there, correct?
Yes.
Am I correct that you cannot give an opinion as to what the decedent was doing at the time that he received these wounds?
No.
You cannot give an opinion one way or another as to whether he received these wounds after attacking somebody else, correct?
I don't know.
Thank you, Judge. I have no further questions.
Redirect.
Briefly. Dr. Boiko, on cross-examination, you indicated that although you can't give an opinion as to how many strikes it took for Mr. Knight to suffer the force trauma to his face, that you said it was hard to believe it came from one strike. Why is that?
Because it's on different sides, on the right cheek, on the nose, and on the lips, on the two sides of the lip.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Thank you, Doctor. You're excused.
You're welcome.
Judge, are you ready?
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Judge, can we come sidebar, please?
Yeah. Send you out for a few more minutes, okay? Okay. Dave, you're the proponent of this, so it's up to you.
Well, Judge, we are trying to keep it out. We are saying that there is not
I
enough.
mean, you're the proponent of the motion, of the...
Correct. But in terms of being able to present that evidence about the excited delirium, that is coming from the defense. So
I know
they're
that.
the proponent said.
I'm not talking about the proponent of the, I'm talking about the number 4.
Yes,
That's what
sir.
I'm talking about. Go ahead.
I stand on the case law that I cited here, Fry and Smith, that there is no human clinical trials of alpha PVP. The anecdotal stories regarding an unrelated individual's behavior, such as running naked, or the studies like defense counsel rely on that talk about items from social media accounts and things of that nature with no information about dosage, purity of dosage, or that there have been approximately 22 individuals that we know took alpha PVP that they have data on. That is not statistically significant. It does not rise to the level of scientifically relevant, and the jury has to be able to believe that there is a connection or correlation. The doctor has to be able to testify as to the research, data, or material from which the conclusion is drawn. They are trying to argue the conclusion that alpha PVP gives an individual an amazing amount of strength or doesn't feel pain, anything of that nature, where there is no such research, data, testimony, other than anecdotal.
So Judge, the first question is whether we have to have a Fry hearing. That's exactly what the state is asking, is we should have a Fry hearing and this should be excluded under Fry. What we're saying is this isn't a Fry issue, that the witness can give what's called pure opinion based on his inductive reasoning and his own expert's experience, observation, or research. Fry only applies when an expert witness reaches a conclusion by applying new and novel scientific principle. That was the case law that I gave the court at the motion in limine, Holy Cross Hospital versus Maroney, Rickauer versus Sarker, Johnson versus State. This witness has already obviously testified in the last trial. He testified as to his knowledge, experience, and his own deductive reasoning conclusions about what FLACA does to you. It's not based on a novel scientific approach. He has been the chief toxicologist for the Broward Medical Examiner's Office the entire time that we were going through the FLACA storage. And he testified at the Broward County Grand Jury called by the state as to this same information. And so, the Broward State Attorney's Office convened this grand jury to investigate FLACA. They called their experts to inform the grand jury as to what FLACA is, and they called the best of the best, and they called Dr. Koonsman. And Dr. Koonsman told them what FLACA does, and then the Broward Grand Jury made its findings, which the state attorney signed off on. And so for the state to now say, look, doctor, it's unreliable, we don't know if what he's saying is true, to say that here, when they called him as a witness at a grand jury that they convened, I think is what's good for the goose is good for the gander. We should be allowed to call him to testify when they themselves found him relevant enough to call him at a grand jury.
And Judge, the studies that have come out since that grand jury was convened in 2015 have shown that this is not just FLACA that we were addressing, we're also addressing all the other synthetic and designer opioids, the new or novel psychoactive substances. And it's determined that what people thought they were getting that was FLACA was in fact not FLACA. So to say that alpha PVP, specifically FLACA, causes these X, Y, and Z reactions, when we don't have any specific data to base that on, he cannot make that opinion. And I anticipate Dr. Koonsman would come up here and tell you that himself.
He made that opinion 2 months ago in the state of Florida versus Demetrius Elder. So if he wants to impeach himself now, I mean, that we can impeach him with his prior testimony, or contradict himself now. We can impeach him with his prior testimony, but that's the exact opinion that he gave back in the state of Florida versus Demetrius Elder.
What? You want him to come in and you want him, if I remember correctly, his testimony was there was no way to tell when or how long the FLACA was ingested. That's my recollection of the testimony.
That's correct. And the state of Florida can certainly ask him those questions, and that goes to the weight of it, not to the admissibility. It could have been ingested 5 minutes before this. It could have been ingested 5 hours before this. They can make that argument to the jury, but that would go to weight, not to admissibility.
Judge, the state is not keeping out the fact that he had alpha PVP in his system. That is coming in. We've already agreed on that. We are trying to keep out the speculative, unfounded scientific, anecdotal evidence that defense is trying to rely on to say this makes everybody take their clothes off and run around naked, which is not what happened.
That is not what we're trying to say, that it makes everybody do that. But this doctor has testified as to symptoms that FLACA users have undergone. To simply FLACA in their alpha PVP in their system, to sterilize it without giving any meaning or indication to the jury what that means, makes it essentially useless. Okay, if alpha PVP in the system, if the jury doesn't know what that does, then it makes it completely useless.
This doctor gave an opinion 2 months ago as to what Flocka does, what symptoms of Flocka does. Not, they can say it doesn't happen to everybody, symptoms are varied, but it makes people more, and their symptoms include making people more aggressive, giving people this, the excited delirium, making it so they are less pervious to injury. And he's testified to that twice now, and he should be able to do it at this trial too.
My concern is the connection between that and what evidence has shown. We don't have any evidence about any of his conduct that this doctor is going to testify could have been caused by the ingestion of Flocka, and that's my concern.
So I disagree, and I'll tell you why. Because in Mr. Baptista's statement to the state attorney's office, which we believe they're going to play, and he specifically says, he came at me for no reason. He had a look in his eye. I don't know what he was on.
Okay.
I stabbed him, and it wasn't doing anything. He kept attacking me.
Okay.
And then Wendy said, Ms. Gamboa said, he walked off, and he wasn't injured. It didn't seem like he was injured. He was angry. All of that suggests that and the Flocka, especially the Flocka part of it, it shows the evidence that he attacked Armando, that even when Armando stabbed him, he kept attacking him, and it was the Flocka that assisted in that, and it gave him this strength which he otherwise wouldn't have had.
And if that evidence comes in, then bring the doctor back, and you can have him testify to it. But right now, we don't have that evidence here. And to just throw that out there, when it's not tied into any of the conduct of the defendant at this point, from what I've heard, I don't think it's relevant at this point. The fact that he took it is going to be out there, so at this point in time, I'm going to grant the state's motion in limine without prejudice for you to raise it again and attack it again, depending on where the evidence goes. That's it. Okay.
Just one last thing, Joe.
What?
One last thing on the issue. Jim, do you have any problem with Dr. Koonsman using this as a demonstrative aid when he goes through it? Because